Hi, I'm Jason with the Duplex Doctors. Right now, I'm going to talk about something in purchasing a duplex or considering things that are going on in your yard. One of the things I noticed this winter, I was out in the woods and walking around, and just noticed how many of the ash trees are dying from the emerald ash borer. We'll post a picture of that here shortly. Um, it reminded me of the fact that a lot of times when people buy a property, they're looking at the inside of the home. They're not necessarily looking at the outside of it. And the trees can be a very expensive part of the transaction. I've seen with ash trees, and they were something that was done to replace. They were planted to replace elm trees. That in the 1970s and 80s there was a Dutch elm disease that came around and killed virtually all the elm trees. And most city blocks would have elm trees all along the street. Those are unfortunately mostly gone. The ash trees were meant to replace them, and now, of course, we've got what's called an emerald ash borer that bores into the wood, the bark, and then goes underneath the bark and basically eats up all of the structure that's underneath the bark and kills the tree. There's some areas that you can go, and you'll see these trees everywhere. There's a strip mall where they're planted all along the street, and they're all dying, and it's unfortunate, but it does remind me of the fact that this is something that you could look for in duplexes, or if you're buying a single family home. Look at the trees in the yard, check the health of them. A lot of times it'll cost several $1,000s to remove a single tree. And that can be a huge expense that you don't see coming. You certainly don't want a tree falling on you or kids or the home. So it's something that you have to keep in mind. There are treatments that they can do for ash trees that we actually have done on an ash tree in our home, and I don't know how effective it is because I'm starting to think that tree is dying too. So it probably will help the longevity of them, but it's just one of those things that it could be a problem, and that you just can't stop. So that's something to focus on. Another thing that I've talked to a lot of people about focusing on is water intrusion. This year is a big thing for that. Obviously, you can see how much snow we have, and we're still getting it, and possibly getting a lot of rain this spring too. But one of the big things that a lot of people don't look at when they're buying a property is, how is the water dealt with? Minnesota, we get a lot of precipitation. We get a lot of snow. Sometimes it comes in real heavy amounts, rather than light rain or light snow. And it all melts at one time, so you have to deal with that. One of the big things that I look for on any kind of property is to see if they have gutters and downspouts, and if they're properly placed. With the downspouts, a lot of times you'll see folks that have a downspout that goes down and then it doesn't lead out there's no leader to run it out into the yard. You should have that water go at least 5 feet away from the property. Otherwise, it actually puts a lot of pressure on the foundation, and it'll eventually get into the home. And that's something that you should consider. Gutters, for example, I would say are around $3,000, and they're going to prevent you from having a $40,000 to $50,000 foundation issue. So it's something, if a property doesn't have them, I would certainly add them after the fact. You can even see this with new properties. I was out in a property that was about 15 years old, and they were already having foundation issues. And what I saw is the gutters and downspouts look brand new on that home. And then he looked at the home next door that was built at the same time period, and you could see the discoloration of the gutters and downspouts on that home. And what had happened is somebody had to add those after the fact, and they did it a little bit too late because they're already having foundation issues. So it's something that if you don't have gutters and downspouts, you should certainly add them as soon as possible. If you have any questions about purchasing a property and you want more information, we're experts and we can certainly help you. My number is 612-332-9000, or you can reach me at jason@theduplexdoctors.com. Thank you.